All right. I've teased you a little bit. We're going to get to predict a commit. We are going to take two, but, and this is self-serving. I told you this, and I might be teasing a little bit too much with what I'm going to do here, but you have the option to either, no, let me correct. You can either take one guy today and only one, or you can take two, but if you take two, you have to replace someone that you have already taken on your board to take the second one. So you can either stick with what you've got and add one more, or you can take two new names and it'll be one additional, but it will be also a replacement for someone else. I'll give you the option. Which one are you going to do?
But before we do that, do you happen to have the list ready just where we can go over who our teams are?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to give you the full refresher on who you've taken?
More for the listener,
Yeah,
for the
not for you.
viewer.
Definitely
Yeah,
not for you.
not at all for me.
Okay, so you have running back Derek Cooper, linebacker Tyler Atkinson, defensive lineman Carter Lucky, tight end Mark Bowman, defensive back Jordan Smith, offensive lineman Jared Smith, edge Kamari Brooks, and quarterback Jared Curtis.
All right, Ben, go through your team too. Again, just for the listeners, for the viewers.
And for the listeners, for me, I've got offensive lineman Graham Houston, safety Zach Fort, running back Jay Lamar, offensive lineman Desmond Green, defensive back Tyreek Green, offensive lineman Jackson Cantwell, wide receiver Ryan Mosley, and offensive lineman Ekene Ogboko.
All right, so am I picking first?
Well, I'm giving you the option. Do you want to take one or do you want to do two, but with a replacement? You get you get the option first, and then I'll get to tell you what order we're going in.
That's fair. I am so confident in the job that me and my general manager. You don't know the people behind the scenes over on my team, Ben. I got people working and scouting and checking in, mostly just reading your recruiting notes on Dogs 24/7. I'm just going to pick one person on this show.
Okay, well, that'll make things easier because, as you can probably imagine, because I created this rule, there's probably a reason why I created this rule, right? And 100%, I have decided that I want to make a little bit of a pivot to what I'm doing here. So I'll go first since I'm going to end up taking two, and I'll start with my replacement. You also came across this information at the same time that I did. So the fact that I'm about to steal this one from you is one of the more unethical things that I've done during this Predict a Commit segment, which I've done plenty of unethical things to steal or try and better my chances of having a better list than you. I am going to do a replacement. I put in a crystal ball pick earlier this week, and I also wrote a separate article as well. North Augusta High School, in honor of me going to Augusta this week. I figured, the South Carolina side, but still Augusta nonetheless. North Augusta High School, Malcolm Gaston, interior offensive lineman. He just visited last week. He's someone that I think Georgia has held in very high regard, more so than where his ranking is. Like Jordan's got his profile pulled up right now. Like he is not the highest rated offensive lineman that Georgia's recruiting, but Georgia really, really likes this guy. I think there have been times that he would have liked to have commit earlier in the process, and Georgia just wanted everyone to be kind of patient on the offensive line. He was in town this past weekend. Everything that I'm hearing is that Georgia knocked it out of the park, and I think things are trending in the right direction. Malcolm, I'll say this little tidbit about Malcolm. His nickname with all his friends is Big Mac. And wisely in the NIL era, when you call Malcolm Gaston right now, it's a picture of him decked out in his football gear, standing right in front of a McDonald's, and he is 100% positioning himself for a Big Mac McDonald's NIL deal. That would be what we would refer to as an above the cap deal if I'm talking to McDonald's. Hey, Big Mac, McDonald's works too perfectly. I am going to replace him. I'm going to replace Desmond Green with Malcolm Gaston. I am not ruling out the possibility that one of us very smartly adds Desmond Green back. In fact, you know what, Jordan? Because I will sacrifice my own here. You have the ability to take Desmond Green again. I do not. And I know what you might be thinking. Oh, why? Oh, Ben's giving me the option to take him. I shouldn't take him. I still think Desmond Green is a solid pick and possibility for him to wind up in this class. But I have sort of viewed Desmond Green and Malcolm Gaston similarly in terms of position fit. They're both South Carolina guys, like similar body types. Like I've kind of viewed it as an either or. Is there a world 2 months from now where both of those guys are in Georgia's class? 100%. But for the purposes of this game and this little wrinkle, I am going to replace Desmond Green. I'm going to throw in Malcolm Gaston, and you reserve the right to add Desmond Green to your team at some point in the future. But I have lost those privileges. And I'm sorry, Desmond. You know, you're my guy. I think that you're a hell of a football player, and there is a fantastic chance that you end up at Georgia. But I am, for the sake of this wrinkle, adding Malcolm Gaston to my team.
No, I think it makes sense to pick Malcolm Gadsden. We got that information. Someone reached out to me while you were on vacation. Snooze you lose. I should have been able to get the first pick since you were on vacation. But no, I like that pick, and I think it makes sense to wind up dropping Desmond Green because, like you said, they fit very similarly. And I don't know necessarily, as you pointed out, if it would be one or the other. But I like where Georgia is with Malcolm Gaston right now. I hate to say it. It always hurts me, but I think you made a good pick.
All right. So you got your one. I'll let you go before I make my second pick of the day.
All right. We are going to go. I've done this once before, and I think you did it with one of your picks as well. When in doubt, think about family. Think about connections with Georgia. And I'm going to do that with my next pick with PJ Dean, Pierre Dean, who is the half-brother of former Georgia center Jared Wilson. PJ Dean, a guy I think that could be a center in the future for the Bulldogs, a guy that not only has that connection because of his brother, but has been on Georgia's radar for a long time, and is a guy that has had a chance to come around, has come to Athens, has familiarity with the coaching staff because of his brother. I like PJ Dean. I am adding him as a guy that will eventually be a center for the Bulldogs, just like his half brother.
And as we record this, he is on campus for a visit. He was at practice on Thursday. I will actually be at Under Armour Charlotte on Sunday. He's on the roster, so I'm expecting him to be there. I know plans change and things like that. So for those that subscribe to Dogs 24/7, you'll probably have more updates on PJ Dean here in the coming days. Someone that definitely could end up being the center of this class. One interesting thing, and it made me almost second guess my decision to replace Desmond Green, is Malcolm Gaston was telling me that he had some conversations about playing center as well, and how that comes into play, I think will dictate a lot for PJ Dean. Psyche Helton is another guy that Georgia likes at center. Like one of those guys, Malcolm Gaston, if they end up wanting him to play center, or PJ Dean or Psyche Helton, I expect will likely be the center of the class. And, you have Carter Lucky now, you have PJ Dean now, I have Ekene Boko. Like I think we have wisely added those family connections early in the predict to commit time of year. All right. So part of the reason, the method to the madness between me wanting to do this switch is I almost feel like I have a chance. I don't know, because there's still a lot to play out. I think I almost have a chance to be able to lock down the Georgia offensive line in this class with my next pick. I think Graham Houston is an interior offensive lineman that Georgia's sitting in really good position with in-state. Again, whether it's an and or an or with Desmond Green or Malcolm Gaston, I'm not quite sure, but I like where things stand with Malcolm Gaston at this point in time. I've mentioned Ekene Boko being a tackle that Georgia really, really likes. I've taken a little bit of a flyer on Jackson Cantwell because I think that Jackson Cantwell is going to be an uber competitive recruitment, and there is a world where a month or 2 months from now, Jackson Cantwell or Georgia has had to go after other tackles. I've mentioned a couple just talking with Zach Ford on this show. But there is one more interior offensive lineman that I think Georgia is in great shape for. He was not in my first mock class 1.0. He will be in my mock class 2.0. it was a guy that I asked Zach Ford about with his IMG Academy teammates at the very end of that interview, and that is Brett Kolajay. He's someone that I am told is very, very high on Georgia, and there's a lot of mutual respect there because of measurables and personality and look. He's going to draw a lot of Mason Short and Tate Ratledge comparisons, and I think that that's fair. His hair's a little bit blonder than those two guys, but similar vibes. And, I think you might have been able to see a little tell on Zach when he was talking about Breck, like, that he didn't even, there were no questions asked on whether he was going to say dog or not dog for Brett Kolajay. I think where things stand right now with Breck, Georgia is, I would consider, in the driver's seat. And so for me, this was more about trying to do the best I can to squeeze you out from being able to get a very large position group. Like, I think that there is a world where Georgia takes 5 offensive linemen, and it is Graham Houston. It is Ekene Boko. It is Malcolm Gaston. It is Brett Kolajay. And then I think Jackson Cantwell is the big money recruitment that they would like to get in as well. If you want to try and, zig my zag a little bit, I might have some recommendations for you on who I would take on the offensive line if I were you. And I'm happy to give you those suggestions as well, because I think I've finally maxed out what I'm going to be able to do on the offensive line and predict to commit.
I think that's a good pick. When we were listening to the Zach Ford interview, I was halfway like, man, I should have my notebook out when you guys did the dog or not. Like, yeah, I think this is some pretty good intel. So, no, I like that, and yeah, may need to see your recommendations. I'll have your people call my people, and we won't do it on air. We want to keep the people guessing, but yeah.
Well, I can throw you a little tip. I mean, Zach already said Kenye Pepe, dog, Nivry Carr, dog. I feel like the chances of Georgia signing 3 offensive linemen from IMG Academy is slim. Maybe optimistic thinking from Zach a little bit. But, if Nivry Carr steals one of those interior offensive line spots, wouldn't shock me. I know Georgia loves him a lot. If I know Kenye Pepe is really high on the board and one of the best pass protecting offensive linemen in the class. So if Georgia doesn't get Jackson Cantwell, is that a guy that I think Georgia maybe is more in this thing for? Yeah, I definitely think that's possible. So you have a chance to make me look real bad if I changed all the rules to manufacture me trying to put together the right offensive line. You could end up with the actual right offensive line when it's all said and done.
We'll see what happens. I don't want to gloat because you've made some good picks along the way. I think if you don't hit the whole offensive line, I think you've got some good ones to choose from.